Hey, what's up, YouTube? This is Steven, and welcome back. All right, so I want to ask you guys a quick question. All right, do you think there is a double standard when it comes to like a dark-skinned black person cooning, right, versus a light-skinned or mixed black person cooning? And the reason I ask this is because for a while I've kind of seen a reoccurring theme of like some people on YouTube, some YouTube users and also some popular YouTube um, users as well who create content, in the quote unquote pro black category, right? And kind of mention like, saying like, oh, it's always a dark skinned person cooning, or especially when it's like, oh, it's always a dark skinned man cooning, or something like that. And I've kind of thought about that. And I kind of think, in my personal opinion, I kind of do feel it may be a double standard at play between, you know, light skinned black people and dark skinned black people. Because it seemed like if it's a light skinned person cooning, then I don't know, it just doesn't seem like it's attributed to their skin tone, right? While on the other hand, if it's a dark-skinned person cooning, it seems like sometimes it's attributed to their skin tone. Like, it's always a dark-skinned person, right? And I believe that the double standard may stem from the fact that maybe we expect more from dark-skinned people when it comes to holding down the black community and going to bat for the black community, because they seemingly would be the most invested in the black community, since they are seemingly, black, unequivocally black, right? No, there's no like ambiguity to them. We're not looking at them and saying, I wonder what race they are. Are they like part Indian? Typically, we're not when it comes to looking at, dark-skinned black people, right? So I think that may be part of the reason why that is. And as well, I think sometimes we view black, dark-skinned black people as sort of kind of like they are the epitome of blackness, right? They are like, to an extent, even like hold the key to blackness, honestly, if you really think about it, because they are kind of like the ones, since they are the majority in the black community, at least in the United States, they kind of can decide who is black or who is accepted into the community as black and who is not accepted into the community as black, right? Therefore, I think because of those reasons and more, dark-skinned black people are held to a higher standard when it comes to holding down the black community and speaking out in the black community and for cooning, right? Like if they coon, it's like, damn, really? That's the way you feel about black people? Especially when they say something like, very degrading towards black people or like the black community, right? It's like, really? As black as you are, you really think like that? You really feel that way, right? I mean, haven't you guys heard that before? Especially like if a dark-skinned black person says like, oh, I don't date black people, right? And then right, the rebuttal is like, really? As black as you are, you saying you don't date black people, right? So yeah, for me personally, I do think there is a double standard, because I think both sides of the skin spectrum, or the skin color spectrum, coon, right? I think both sides coon, honestly. But I think when it comes to light-skinned people, and I'll put mixed people who identify as black too in that category, when it comes to them cooning, it's different. It's viewed differently. I mean, people do go in and have opinions, but I think them being lighter skin kind of gives them a sort of a privilege to be like, well, I'm not just black, right? It gives them sort of an excuse for their cooning, some justification for their cooning, right? Like, oh, especially if they are like mixed, right? They're like, oh, well, they have like a non-black parent, you know, perhaps, the black community doesn't accept them as being black, as maybe black people were, um, you know, very mean to them when they were a kid, or even when into adulthood as well. It seems like we have excuses for when it's like a light skin or mixed person cooning. I mean, not that we still don't go in, because we do, but it seems like if it were a light skin or mixed person cooning, it's not like we say, oh, there go that light skin person cooning. There's always the light skin one. You really don't hear that much. And as well, on the flip side, if like a light skinned or biracial person steps up and, speaks on behalf of the community and, calls some things out using the platform that they have, especially if like they're a celebrity or something like that, then the light skinned person is saying like, oh, wow, they're really down for the community, right? And the black community gives them kudos and be like, it's always the light skinned person gotta step up and speak on some stuff. I kind of heard something like that when it comes to light skinned people, like speaking up, right? On the flip side, if a dark skinned person does it, I think it's still acknowledged, right? It's still acknowledged, but I don't think it's as celebrated though, because I think it's more expected that a dark skinned person would speak up for the black community, because assumably the dark skinned person would be down for the black community, because assumably, right, they have no other community elsewhere, right? But as the saying goes, right, not all skin folk are kinfolk. That's very important, especially in this time that we're in right now. And me, on a personal level, I have definitely been learning about that, right? Because a lot of times I do kind of like, oh, they're black and I'm black, right? So I assume we're on the same page, more or less, or at least in the same chapter, the same book. That's not always the case, though. Sometimes we might be on a different page a little bit. That's cool. Different chapter. Okay, all right. I'll wait for you to catch up. A different book. I don't know about that, right? It might be hard for you to find a copy of the book I'm reading. You know. Yeah. And I guess I should have mentioned this a little bit earlier, but the topic of this video kind of came up from a comment I saw on a YouTube video. Something to the extent of like, it's always a dark-skinned person cooning, or rather like, oh, I don't like seeing dark-skinned people coon. Something like that, right? And I had posted, why dark-skinned though? Why dark-skinned specifically, right? And then they replied, because they have low self-esteem. Like, okay, but where did that come from? And then another person had replied, because it makes them look like a token pet Negro. I can kind of understand that one a little bit more. But as far as like the low self-esteem issue, I'm like, well, where did that come from, right? And I think, honestly, to an extent, the community sometimes even preys on low self-esteem having, or dark-skinned black people who happen to have low self-esteem to an extent, I think even some on like, this may be going into a whole nother topic, but I'll speak on it right quick. Like, some, light-skinned people may be like, oh, go for a darker skinned person, or feel like they would have a better chance with a darker skinned person. Especially when I look at like some of these like relationships in the media when it comes to like dark skinned black men and light skinned black women. Sometimes I'm like, You know, I think that light-skinned woman might, because sometimes a light-skinned woman isn't even like really accomplished that much. But it's like, well, she's just taking advantage of, the opportunity because for her it's an easier pool, I guess. I don't know. I'm all over the place with that one. Hmm. And on the flip side, you have some dark-skinned people who may take advantage of some lighter-skinned people's feeling of not having, having identity issues as far as like race is concerned, perhaps. Feeling like they have to prove their blackness, right? Some dark-skinned black men would just be like, hey, come over here, and they'll justify these light-skinned women's feelings of blackness, right? They'll justify their black, right? But that's enough for now. Thanks for watching, you guys. Feel free to comment. Adios and goodbye for now.